he's a scared old man, and you can just see it. And his rambling and incoherent shit, and he's at 71% approval in the polls. He does not care. He doesn't care. The Supreme Court doesn't care. They don't even go to the trouble of giving you reasons anymore. It's that amazing. It really is.
James, as you know, was out of town for 10 days. I did the podcast last week from London. I got back thinking nothing has changed. It has. It's gotten worse. It's more repressive. He fires the head of the BOS because he doesn't like the economic numbers. His once honest top economist says, yeah, he's right. Trump is always right. Now he wants to put someone in who will try to rig the numbers. He wants to take over Washington, D.C. because a Doge bully called Big Balls got mugged. You know, young black kids get mugged regularly, and Trump doesn't seem to get upset. Crime is actually down in Washington, D.C., by the way. But the worst is the Trump-ordered Texas redistricting. And that state and elsewhere where they're going to lose the midterm elections, they know. And in order to rig the process and avoid that inevitable, they want to rig the redistricting in the middle of the decade, picking up as many as 5 Texas seats. What Trump and his Texas lackeys want is for the politicians to pick the voters. That's not the way it's supposed to happen in American politics. The voters are supposed to pick the politicians. You know, and I've been a big advocate, James, of independent redistricting commissions. I actually think they work in a number of states where they've been tried. But I think they create, many more competitive districts. But Democrats, starting with California, would be crazy to play by these rules and unilaterally disarm. Trump will keep playing dirty elsewhere. So the big question is whether they can win or at least neutralize this. Maybe not. But with Trump, there's no honor in American politics. So go after him every day.
Well, let's start with the overall picture. Even right now, before they do this, it's something like over 52% of the popular vote. The Democrats have to win to control the House. Now, traditionally, we were taught in ninth grade civics that the House is the people's house. It runs every 2 years. It's the most responsive to the will of the people. Well, it's not really that right now, and it's going to get worse. The other fact we need to know is that 18% of the population elects 50 United States senators. Now, that can't change because that's in the Constitution. The other thing we need to know is that the Republicans in this century, in 6 elections, have won the popular vote twice. They control 2/3 of the Supreme Court. That's not good. And if you want to, the Democrats talk about democracy, and you have these people, importance of democracy and preserving democracy and saving democracy. Well, the truth of the matter is, people are right when they say this democracy is really imperfect. And they're going to have to do, if the Democrats win the presidency, the Senate and the House in 2028, which is not impossible. I don't know if you say likely or possible. I don't know what word but it's certainly not impossible. They are just going to have to unilaterally add Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia states. They're going to have to, the Constitution gives Congress power over federal elections. I don't think they can redistrict, but there are things they're going to do. They're going to have to do it. They're just going to have to do it. And they may have to expand the court to 13 members. Any of those things in isolation, I would be skeptical about. I would be cautious about. I would say, well, I don't know if that's the greatest idea in the world. You're opening Pandora's box, or all kinds of things. If you want to save democracy, I think you got to do all of those things, because we just are moving further and further away from being anything close to democracy. And I don't know if it's something that they should talk about during the campaign. I guess you probably would want to, because if you have a Democratic House, a Democratic senator, and a Democratic president, they should do that on day one. 4 more United States senators, 4 more Supreme Court members, and some stringent national legislation on how you can do Congress. They could easily pass a law saying you can only redistrict once every 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, what precipitated constitutional crisis with the Supreme Court said you can't expand to 13. They say that some impediment to adding 2 more states. Sure. And what they do, they'll just issue a ruling on the shadow docket saying that it's overturned, but that you got to force ahead.
Yeah, the shadow document is supposed to be the emergency document. You only rule when there's an emergency. The shadow document now is emergencies or when Trump needs it.
Right.
And that's
And,
what they've done.
and they don't give you a reason anymore.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, so I don't know. I really don't. But if you're going to save this country or this republic or whatever you want to call it, you're going to have to do something in 2028 because it's slipping away from us by about a minute.
Well, I agree. But if you take control of the House and the Senate, you can lay the groundwork in 2027. You can start at least. And,
Yeah, you can do.
yeah.
There's all kinds of.
But
I mean, and he's panicking because he knows it's going to happen if Democrats get even one uh, of the legislative chambers back. So he's in. Not much. It was his idea. He called Greg Abbott and said, "I want 5 from Texas." He's a scared old man, and you can just see it. And his rambling and incoherent shit, and he's at 71% approval in the polls. He does not care.
disapproval. Yeah. Yeah.
He doesn't care. The Supreme Court doesn't care. They don't even go to the trouble of giving you reasons anymore. It's that amazing. It really is.
One thing that he does care about and never talks about is the Epstein scandal, which won't go away. Josine Maxwell, Epstein's partner in crime. She, by the way, is a convicted sexual predator, and the court said she was a perjurer, too. She was transferred to a country club prison right after she spent 2 days talking to Trump's lawyer and consummate loyalist, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. Every move is being directed by Trump. How do we know that? Because he was told about this months ago, and he's scared stiff of this. I have no idea why. And when he says he didn't know, I had no idea that Maxwell was transferred to that country club prison. No one believes that. Reportedly, James Vance, A.G. Bondi, the FBI director, I'm sure Blanche, Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, are meeting to plot how they handle the Epstein problem. Whatever they devise, there are 2 elements we can rule out: truth and transparency. James, one of the things we saw in that hostile Republican held town hall in Nebraska was that the Epstein scandal really cuts deeply with those voters.
Yeah, what I would suggest that anyone do is just Google the U.S. Attorney's memorandum on the sentencing of Joycelyn Maxwell, where they laid out how many lives she ruined. And look, this one woman, they passed her around, and of course, she's committed suicide. And we can't imagine the emotional human carnage that was inflicted by this whole thing. But you must read the sentencing memo, and the government could have prosecuted her easily on 3 or 4 more cases of perjury, but they didn't need to do that because they had her so locked cold on the other stuff. And she got, by the way, the sentencing judge gave her 20 years. It's no, there's no connectivity to any law, any sense of decency, any sense of fairness. And I hate to say this, but I think the only thing we can do is fight, is close to the edge of the law as you can possibly get.
James, I
I,
agree.
I
I want somebody, some lawyer representing those victims and those victims uh, to talk more, to come out more, to talk about the outrage, to talk about the pain, to talk about the suffering, to talk about the loss of life, to let people know what a truly, genuinely evil person
oh
this is.
God, I
And
mean, just what came out at trial. Understand, she had the right to cross-examine. She confronted the witnesses. I mean, just look at what happened. Suppose that had been your daughter or my daughter, anybody listening to this podcast, and these girls were like 13 years old and they promised them a career, and they would groom them and harvest them. It's like it's unbelievable.
Well, and we really. By the way, Todd Blanche, who wants to get to the bottom of this, he never talked to any of those victims, at least as of a day or two ago. Wonder why not, James?
Oh man, what?
God.
It's so unbelievable, and it's happening right in front of you. And he talks about crime in D.C. Right, you pointed out, violent crime is like down 26%. It's down everywhere. By the way,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's one of those things that I wish that like somebody good, like the Atlantic or the Times, some say Jim Fallows would do a long-term piece. Is what's driving this? I mean, I suspect it spiked up during the pandemic, and you can kind of see why these young people didn't go to school. They were locked up, some 2, 3 generational house. I guess that led to it, but I'd like to get some people to take a stab at it. How this thing has dropped so fast.
Yeah, I
I
think
didn't see this
part of
coming.
the part of the reason is better policing, smarter policing. I mean, one of the people who I've never met but really impresses me is the New York City police chief, a daughter of billionaires, Jessica Tisch. You never would have thought that someone like that would be a terrific police chief. She is. By the way, she went to that that sad funeral the other day of that Muslim police officer who was killed at 375 Park Avenue when some crazy guy was trying to go after the NFL. And the governor went, and they wore headscarves. He was a Muslim. It was in respect to
Yeah.
that.
It's well,
And
should have.
as there were 100 women police officers reportedly there, all of whom wore headscarves. But somehow Ted Cruz found that offensive. And there's one reason Ted Cruz found that offensive, because he's a bully, he's a coward, and he's a bigot. But in any event, James, I want to.
I just what I put in a plug too. We have the same situation. We have a female police chief here in Yawns who's by everybody. I met her, I know her name is Ann Kirkpatrick, and the causation and correlation. But since she became chief, the crime has fallen to the bottom of the floor, much like New York. Maybe the new trend in policemen are, these really smart women. I don't know. It's something to
Well,
think about.
I think a key test for this likely young socialist mayor is keeping that police chief.
I do too.
But
I think that would go a long way.
it sure
I
would.
agree.
James, it
And
brings
she's a
me
member
to
of the Tisch family.
they're
They're
right,
part of Young Giants.
billionaires. Who would
Yeah,
have
yeah,
thought that someone like that? But she must be one tough cookie. She
absolutely.
really must be. Finally brings me around to one more subject, courtesy of our friend, former Judge Michael Ludig, who noted the other day that judges around the country ruling against Trump's arbitrary actions are under serious threat. John McConnell of Rhode Island, for example, has received multiple death threats. He said, I've been on the bench for 15 years, and this is the first time where I question whether we're a country that's going to continue to support the rule of law. But the question that Judge Ludig and others ask is, where's John Roberts? The Chief Justice is supposed to want to protect the judiciary. He hasn't said a damn word about these threats. Is he afraid of incurring Trump's wrath? Is that what guides John Roberts these days? It is, James, an outrage.
Well, when you were brought Tom Etzel wrote a column in the Times yesterday about
Yep.
how all these appellate courts, Republican judges, everything overturning this stuff, in they overturned this Trump's action. I don't know. I want to say a high percentage of the time, the Supreme Court never goes against him. And you're right. The Chief Justice, I think by statute, is the head of the federal judiciary. I mean, he puts on and he had said something before because I think he got scared, but I don't know if in Chief Justice Roberts' mind that it's okay to make a death threat against a judge that rules against Trump. I don't know what this guy. Every that's one person I never was fooled by. Um, and they just it's a rubber stamp operation. They don't even give you reasons. They don't give a shit. And whatever that guy, whatever he started out as his career in the judiciary, he's rubber stamp. Doesn't even care about his own judges. I don't know.
Yeah. He's like a lot of people these days in that party and others. He's scared, James, and
It may be.
he's acting like a scared man, and that really is outrageous.
I don't know,
Um,
man.
well, I'd like to say it's good to be back in the States. It's good to be back to see you, to be closer to talk to you, James. But it was not a pretty picture to come back to.
No, it is going to get less prettier and less prettier. It's just
Yeah.
it's there's no. I don't have any. The only thing that we can do, and they're going to do this, pull this thing off in Texas. We're going to be convoluted, and they're going to do it in Missouri and Indiana, and we're going to have the whole country is going to have this massive redistricting fight. And I can assure you, the Supreme Court is not going to do anything to make the system more fair, expedited. And there's all kinds of, 15th Amendment gives you the right to vote. Well, inherent in the right to vote is that your vote count. And that when you intentionally try to marginalize one person's vote at the expense of another, it's pretty clear to me you're in violation of the 15th Amendment. But
Well, just ignore all those high sounding reforms that I used to write in support of, and
right,
you just ignore them. Go after them.
right,
Uh,
right.
this is the law of the jungle, and when you're fighting animals, you can't play by Marcus of Queensberry rules.
Broke our friend John Maynard Keynes. When the facts change, I changed my mind.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, if it was John McCain or Bob Dole, or, you know, Bush 41, let's have an election. This is something that people wouldn't have dreamed of.
Oh,
A
oh,
lot of it is, McConnell has his fingerprints on this. We should
sure he
never,
does.
we should never forget that.
And I thought that after he was I thought he would have a certain sense of liberation, and he did on one or two confirmations. But he's now been he's been a lapdog also. He's just gone along with whatever Trump wants. Trump hates him. Trump will try to demean him every chance he gets, but he apparently cares. He thinks he can still have influence in the Republican Party. Guess what, Mitch? It's
Old
over.
crow. That what Trump calls him, old crow.
It's over. Okay, we got lots more to talk about next week.